Welcome, everyone. This is Mike O'Connor from NuVoodoo. We're going to get started here in just a second. We're going to give some stragglers a chance to get logged in because we're adding kind of a couple of different interactive components to today's presentation. As you see on your screen, if you'd like to be an active participant in our trivia quiz game, where we'll be showing your responses on a percentage basis, so your individual responses will remain anonymous, but your aggregate responses will be displayed so we can compare how well you think about how likely meter wearers and diary keepers answer our research questions. If you've been with us on past webinars, you'll probably have a little bit of an inside advantage. But fortunately for those who haven't, today's game is not of skill, at least not in terms of winning the prize. We are going to be giving you all a chance to play an instant win game at the end of today's presentation, at roughly the bottom of the hour. So this is a 30-minute presentation. So if you could, text NuVoodoo, it's not case sensitive, to the number you see on the screen right now, 833-447-9370. That will allow you to be an active participant in the trivia game. Once we start the trivia game, we'll be closed to any new entries. So we're just going to give you about a minute more to sign up here, and then we'll get started. And if you're just joining us, there'll be a chance for everyone to play, whether or not they enter their mobile phone number and play our game, to have a chance to get paid for every meter they find at the end, with thanks to Ken Scott, $1 Million Media. And we see still some folks logging in, but we're going to get started here. There's still some time for you to enter. Send the keyword NuVoodoo to the number you see on the screen so you can participate in our trivia game. I am Mike O'Connor. I'm the head of marketing for NuVoodoo Media Services. Today, we're not going to sell you anything. We're just going to play a fun interactive game and test your knowledge of likely ratings respondents. And I'm joined today by PJ Kling, and he's our head of business development, and Lee Jacobs, who heads up our research division. And today's presentation will focus on the findings from NuVoodoo's Ratings Prospect Study 13. That was fielded in January of this year. And the focus and content will be about what we've become known for, that subset of radio listeners most likely to wear a meter, fill out a diary, or both. Today, we'll focus on those key differences between regular radio listeners so that we're able to discount the folks who would never say yes to participating in the radio ratings and focus on the ones who generate your report card. And so let's turn things over to Lee and get started now.
All right, thanks, Mike. For this session, though, we're going to try something a little different. Instead of the usual we talk, you listen, we're going to invite you to be an active participant. You'll have the chance to test what you know about those likely to participate in the radio ratings by texting your responses to our IQ test questions. And then we'll show you how your answers compare in real time with the actual responses given by study participants. And more importantly, along the way, we'll give you some ideas about what you can do with this information. So I'll hand it off to PJ.
Thanks, Lee. Plus, at the end of today's webinar, and like what programmers do every day, you're going to have a chance to get paid if you find a meter, thanks to Ken Scott from $1 Million Media. But before we get to that, let's test your knowledge of the audience with our ratings respondent trivia. Remember, just grab your phone and text NuVoodoo. It is not case sensitive to the number that you see there on the screen. That's 833-447-9370.
So these data come mainly from Ratings Prospect Study number 13, fielded in January of this year, which included over 3,000 respondents, ages 14 to 54, across all 48 PPM markets. Now, we balanced that sample to mimic the tier of PPM markets by relative market population and gender and age and ethnic characteristics. And again, if you'd like to participate in the interactive part of the presentation and have your votes register, you need to text NuVoodoo, not case sensitive, to 833-447-9370. You'll be prompted once you do that to enter your name and email address. Now, overall, the potential meter wearing and potential diary keeping pools accounted for about 14% apiece in our data as modeled through our proprietary groups of questions. And while the two groups overlap significantly, they don't overlap exactly, and there are some differences between the methodologies. But for today, unless otherwise specified, we're focused on a subset of 457 respondents ages 25 to 54 who profile as likely to accept either a meter or a diary or both. All right, enough preamble. Mike, let's get going.
All right, this first series of questions focuses on what is perhaps radio's single greatest opportunity, smart speakers. So if your fingers are ready and warmed up, let's get started. Question number one, it's important to hold your text till after we ask the question so it will count. Among those who have a smart speaker, more than half of adult ratings likelies locate a smart speaker in this room. Text your response now. Text 1 if you think that's the kitchen. Text 2 if you think it's the bedroom. And Lee, regardless of what the answer is, it would appear that it's a new listening location, which means it's a great opportunity for radio to reclaim some old ideas.
Absolutely. Either room would be a potential win for radio. Just getting people thinking about using audio as entertainment in their homes again would be great. Now, the room clocks it as the bedroom. And in fact, that's the correct answer. Among these ratings likely adults who have a smart speaker, over half have placed one in the bedroom. And you'll note that these numbers total to nearly 200%, corresponding to the fact that people who get one smart speaker frequently end up with additional units in their homes.
All right, so if you're joining us late and you're having trouble getting into the interactive text portion of the game, that opportunity is closed. However, stick around for the end of today's presentation because we'll give everybody in attendance a chance to play our instant win game and get paid $20 for every meter they find in $1 Million Media's instant win game. So let's move on and talk about use cases. Remember to wait till I've asked the question before you answer so that your vote counts. Among 25, 54-year-olds likely to participate in the radio ratings, which rank #1 in the different ways they've tried to use their smart speakers? Text 1 if you think it was to get the weather. Text 2 if you think it was to listen to AM or FM radio. And Lee, I think it's important to point out we're not talking about regular use cases. We're talking about have you ever made at least one attempt to try this?
Absolutely. This is just testing the water. These devices are still relatively new in people's homes. Even for those of us who've had them around, we're still finding ways to use them and things we can do with them.
We have a room of industry geniuses who seem to have followed the spoken word playbook, but is that the correct answer?
Let's see. The room says it's get the weather, but these 25, 54 ratings likely adults, more of them have tried listening to AM or FM radio. If we'd looked at the wider sample, the #1 answer would be get the weather. But among those types likely to play the ratings game with Nielsen, connecting with a station rises to the top.
All right, we've touched on the where and the what, so let's deal with the how, the user experience. Of the ratings likelies who actually made the effort, how many had trouble when asking their smart speaker to play their favorite radio station? Text 1 if you think it's about a third. Text 2 if you think it's about half. Lee, no matter which answer is correct here, this data is not really great news.
No, it wouldn't be good in either example, but if it's the larger number, that's crisis level. The smaller number, maybe that's just nuisance at this point. Now, the room clocks it at about half, and in fact, the answer is about half. It's 47% of those who have a smart speaker among these ratings likely adults say that they've had trouble getting a station to play for them on their smart speaker. It's kind of a fumble at the goal line, and a reminder that we need to script this for listeners so they know what to say to Alexa or Hey Google or nowadays or coming soon Siri, so they can get your station and not some other Mix 102 or some other Rock 94 playing.
From smart speakers to social media we go. Among our group of likely ratings respondents 25 to 54, which is larger? Text 1 if you think it's the percentage posting more to Facebook lately. Text 2 if you think the percentage is less posting on Facebook lately. Facebook leaves our passwords unprotected, has possibly armed foreign adversaries with the tools to exploit division and sow discord. And Zuckerberg's had more than his fair share of adverse publicity. But the bottom line is, what are ratings respondents doing on Facebook these days?
The room clocks it as posting less on Facebook, and certainly that could make sense. But in fact, as of January, among this group of likely ratings respondents 2554, more said that they were posting more. About a sixth said they were posting less, but nearly half say they're posting more than they were a year ago. And so this shows Facebook's momentum at nearly 30 points to the positive, which is good by almost any standards.
Yeah, remember, as Lee pointed out, we're talking about likely ratings respondents here. So contrary to the opinion that Facebook is dead or dying, when it comes to these folks, this channel is still core to reaching them with your message early and often.
And in the past half decade or more now that we've been managing campaigns for radio stations playing the Nielsen game, more and more we have to take the generational divide within social media into account. So these next questions sort of attack that. Let's start with a younger demo. Among likely ratings respondents 14 to 24 who use social media at least once a week or more often than that, rank the top 3 social platforms. Text 1 if you think YouTube has eclipsed Facebook and is now in the lead, followed by Instagram and Snapchat. Text 2 if you think upstart Snapchat is the preferred media usage channel of choice, followed by Instagram, but with Facebook still sneaking into the top 3.
Now we're talking 14 to 24s here, and we're talking weekly usage. It's just kind of, do you stop by there occasionally? It doesn't mean you're there compulsively or there daily to weigh in on things or see what's going on.
Yeah, Facebook still could be the social media network the young'uns use to stay in touch with mom and dad and Uncle Fester, but does it even crack the top 3 in 2019?
Well, now the room says that it's YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat, and in fact, those are the correct answers. When we stack rank them, Facebook just gets edged out of the top 3 by Snapchat.
We also know that YouTube is what many use for music discovery. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that perception back, so we should use YouTube as a tool that works to our benefit instead. That's why our clients often use YouTube to get in front of their audience effectively, whether it's 6-second bumper videos for reach and frequency or TrueView ads for longer form content. There are a lot of products that can help you find your audience even when they're not tuning in.
All right, let's move up in demo. Among likely ratings respondents 2554 who use social media once a week or more often, rank their top 3 social media platforms. Is Facebook in the lead? Text 1 if you think so, Facebook followed by YouTube, and then Instagram. Text 2 if you think YouTube has eclipsed Facebook and that Twitter is in the conversation. Text your response now. You think with all the media coverage, Lee, Twitter would be higher ranked in either answer, but just because the president uses Twitter a lot doesn't mean our audience that's responsible for our report card is.
Well, that's the way it seems to be shaping up with the folks voting today. They've clocked it at Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And in fact, that is the correct answer. And Twitter doesn't miss the top 3 by a little, it misses by a lot. So YouTube and Zuckerberg's duopoly are the top 3 weekly among these 2554s.
All right, so let's move from weekly use to the chronic use. This is, and we'll start with the young end of our sample here. So now we're talking about likely ratings respondents 14 to 24 who use these platforms chronically. We define that as more than 4 or more times a day. Text 1 if you think the top chronic use channel is Instagram. Text 2 if you think it's Snapchat. We know there's a lot of savvy programmers here who've spent time blocking upstart competitors by dulling any unique selling propositions that new format entrants have entered the market with, and that seems to be the Zuckerberg Instagram playbook. So is that enough co-opted differentiation to knock Snapchat out of the conversation?
Now, the room says that it's Instagram in the lead, but in fact, the correct answer would be Snapchat. And it ends up being the correct answer because of the really twitchy 14 to 24s who are checking in more than 10 times a day on the platform.
All right, this is a pretty savvy group. So this next question is hopefully we can stump most people. Let's look at chronic use a little differently here with the money demo and put it to the test. Among likely ratings respondents, which group is larger? Is it the percent who check Facebook less than once a week or not at all? Or is it the percent who check Facebook 10 times a day or more? Text 1 if you think it's less than once a week. Text 2 if you think it's 10 times a day or more. Chronic usage.
Now we're talking 2554s. And the room is, well, seems to have settled down. Okay, a couple of more votes in there. And so the room clocks it as more than 10 times a day or more. And in fact, that's the correct answer. Fully a third of these media inclined ratings likelies check into Facebook more than 10 times a day. It's like the perfect storm. Ratings likelies use more radio and they use more social media.
All right, so let's move from what's moved the needle for the Russians and for radio stations playing the Nielsen game to what's moved the needle for our industry for decades now, snail mail. Which group tells us they pay more attention to the mail they get at home advertising things? Is it the group that is excluding those who would never say yes to Nielsen, meaning only the likely ratings respondents 2554? Text 1 if you think that group is the most likely to pay attention to direct mail. Text 2 if you think no, it's the PPM no's and diary no's in our sample that lower, that increase the bar overall to the 2554 group in total. Text 2 if you think that's the case. Is this the domain of the rating savvy only, or is it more of a general market thing?
I think they're on to us.
Yeah. Why it still works. That's the only reason.
It's the likely ratings respondents, the media connected types more likely to play the ratings game. And of course, they're more likely to notice direct mail. Although direct mail looks great among 2554s, it looks even greater among 2554s who are likely ratings responders.
And whether it's PPM or diary, we know that the Nielsen dance starts at the mailbox, which is why advertising channels like direct mail are still effective in reaching them. And what's nice about direct mail in 2019 is that we're only focused on the households that meet our targeting criteria. If you don't, we can skip not only your house, but the cost associated with printing the piece with your name on it as well. Different houses on the block can even get different pieces or even different people within the same household. Just depends on how you want to slice it.
Just past the halfway mark now. If you were too late to get involved in our text interactive trivia game, that's okay. You'll still be eligible to play the instant win game for the chance to get paid for $20 if you find a household with meters, and you get paid $20 for every meter you find. That's coming up here in less than 15 minutes. This next series of questions you see on the screen stem from our perceptual verbatims that we've seen a lot in our proprietary client studies over the years, and this is series of questions we use to try to confirm their statistical validity. For example, the question you see on the screen, how many ratings-friendly CHRP1s agreed with the statement, "I'd listen more to a music station that takes a stand against gender discrimination"? Text 1 if you think it's a plurality of the sample at about 40%. Text 2 if you think it is a majority of about 70%. A format that attracts a significant female base. But how does politicizing messaging work with likely ratings respondents?
Either number would be big if it's about 40% or about 70%. But if it were the higher number, that could be something you could actually use in positioning. And the room clocks it as the larger number. And in fact, it is the larger number, about 70%, 69% among ratings likely CHRP1s. Now, there are supporters across the board here, but obviously lower in some of these formats with less females or older females in their constituencies. So it's a question of, what does your station stand for?
Well, a tweet just passed through my iPad, Donald Trump angry at Bette Midler for some reason, but normally he's angry at the media. Remembering this study was conducted in January and not this week, where we've had perhaps the media portrayed as fake news quite insistently lately. We wanted to find out if people agreed with this statement. Local news and information station delivered fake news. So we actually turned the script here. What percent of likely ratings respondents disagreed? Text 1 if you think that number is over 60% of the sample. Text 2 if you think it is in fact less than 60%.
So here the game depends on the percentage who said they disagree, that we're not fake news. And this group seems to pretty decisively come back with the idea that maybe it's more than 60%. Well, it's not. It's less than 60%. In fact, at this point, the disagrees outnumber the agrees, but not by a lot. Nearly 40% agree that, in essence, that our news isn't real. And by the way, that 39% who agree with the idea that we deliver fake news, that spikes among men 25-54, where the seeds of doubt have been sown.
And our semi-annual study is back in the field, Lee, and we'll be presenting new data later this July to see if that perception holds true. All right, so let's cover some tune-in catalysts next. How many ratings likelies told us they tuned in or listened more when a station advertised commercial-free music, a commercial-free hour of music, in fact? Text 1 if you think it's greater than 50%. Text 2 if you think the number of respondents that responded to that was less than 50%. Commercial-free music.
The voting seems
probably not
pretty
fooling
decisive,
anyone here.
right? And of course, it's more than 50%. In fact, it's nearly, it is 2/3 of our ratings likelies 25-54s.
Knowing what we know about how much cash moves the needle, when you can combine these two things, cash and commercial free time, it increases the likelihood of hitting a home run. In fact, the biggest lift that we've seen with our clients has been through our Progressive Payday, if you'll excuse the shameless plug. And you can find out more about that under the marketing tab of NuVoodoo.com.
News Talk folks have long said that severe weather is their marketing budget. So let's deal with this tune-in catalyst next. A little twist on this one, though. The percent of adult ratings likelies who said they tuned in or listened more to a station simply because the threat of severe weather was predicted for the area. Text 1 if you think severe weather in the forecast is enough to tune in, thinking it's less than 50% that agree with that. Text 2 if you think more than 50% would respond to severe weather in the forecast.
And please remember, these data were collected back in January. We're probably mixing our metaphors a little bit with the picture of the tornado and the graphic on the prior page. But they probably weren't thinking about tornadoes back then. They were probably thinking more about severe winter weather. The room clocks it at about 3/4. And in fact, it's certainly more than 50%. Of course, it's more than 50%. 71%, that's just the prediction of severe weather. And again, these data collected back in January, months ahead of the tornado season.
It would be nice if we could make the weather time itself so that it landed right in the middle of prime hours in the middle of a book, but obviously we can't do that. So it's easy to write that off if you're not a news station, but you shouldn't, regardless of when severe weather happens. And if you are a news station or any station, even a music station that does severe weather coverage for your community, you should be making sure that your station's branding shows up in the digital assets of the right consumers in the right places at the right times to support your weather imaging and to support tune into your station when severe weather is in the forecast. And if you'll excuse shameless plug number 2, this is also something we can help you with. Just email us at marketing@nuvoodoo.com and we can send you more info about our first alert weather branding.
Next tune-in catalyst, no cash budget, no technology required. Percent of adult ratings likelies who said they tuned in simply because a friend said they heard a song you might like on the station. Did more than 51% of our sample think that was true and that they had listened more as a result of a friend recommendation? Text 1 if you think that's the case. Text 2 if you think, nope, it's less than 50%. Sure would be great if this one tested out because it doesn't cost anything.
Doesn't cost anything. It's just a matter of, I don't know, I guess spinning up the idea that people should talk to their friends about what's going on the radio, which was a great thing anytime we can make that happen. So the room clocks it at more than 50%. And in fact, it is more than 50%, even among 25-54s. But of course, it's up to you to suggest reasons why they should mention your station to their friends. That's real lift available. Even at 25-54s, that's 61% and 2/3 among the 18 to 34s in our study.
I'll be interested to see if a station tries the $1,000 dedication to try to impact Nielsen. Could work. All right, this tune-in catalyst is one that we spend a great deal of time on behalf of our clients at NuVoodoo, and our clients spend a great deal of money, and that's contesting. So subject of our next question. Most radio stations Contests are rigged. They never really give away the prizes. Which demographic subset of likely ratings participants were in greater agreement with that? And not by a little, by a lot. Text 1 if you think it's our jaded and cynical younger generation that can't be fooled by big media, 18 to 34-year-olds. Text 2 if you think no, in fact, it's the demographics that have been hypoed and manipulated by us over the years and are no longer buying it. Text 2 if you think it's 35-54. Well, we've been beating the drum on this issue of contest fraud perception among our clients for the last couple of years, and the report card's better, Lee, but where do we end up on this one?
A little bit better, but of course, any number there is bad because people who think your contest is rigged are a lot less likely to play the game and are more likely to scoff at it and push it aside. The room clocks it at the young end, and in fact, it is the young end, and not by a little bit, by a lot. But even that 31% who think contests are fake news among our ratings responding 35-44s, that's again folks who just aren't likely to play the game.
One of the best ways to battle the idea that you don't actually do your contests is to celebrate your winners. Now, most aren't doing call-in contests anymore, so the natural audio that comes from that is not built into the contesting formula anymore. But if you have a local winner of any kind of significant prize, whether it's a local or national contest, you should be shouting it from the rooftops on the web, on social, and yes, call them so that you can put their reaction on the air.
All right, so from what moves the needle with ratings respondents to where we can most effectively move it, the workplace. What's the percent of likely ratings respondents who say they listen to some type of audio, terrestrial radio or otherwise, during the workday and while at work? Is that number greater than 70%? Text 1 if you believe that to be the case. Text 2 if you think, nope, small minority, less than 30%. Now, we've always thought of at-work listening to be a place to rack up quarter hours, but is the audience potential, in fact, greater than our perception?
So it ultimately comes down to whether you think it's really all the time spent listening that drives this, or is it just that there are that many folks out there?
We have not fooled this group much at all today.
No, I'm afraid not. It does not seem that way because, of course, it's more than 40%. In fact, it's 72%. That can add up to big TSL, big AQH if you get the credit.
Yeah, it's important to remember that while radio has the largest single piece of the pie, it is no longer the majority overall, with brands like Spotify and Pandora taking up significant share. What we do know, though, is that we can rent those people back through contesting, which is why marketing options like workplace telemarketing are so effective.
We're just a couple minutes away from making one or more people an instant winner of $20 gift certificates for every meter they find. Whether or not you were able to interact with us on your mobile phone or not today, you'll have a chance to play the game. Coming down the home stretch, remember for this question, we asked about actual past behavior. The percentage of likely ratings respondents who reported listening more after a station called you or someone else where you were at work or a coworker to tell you about a contest. Is that number of people who changed their behavior? Text 1 if you think it's 40%, text 2 if you think it's 15%. A reminder here, you have to be Nielsen friendly, you have to listen to audio at work, you have to have changed your behavior as the result of a radio station phone call. That's quite a tight inverted pyramid, if you ask me.
It's a pretty tight pyramid, but it's also a pretty big bar, like 40%. That's a lot. That's a lot. But that's
really
what the
big
room
opportunity
thinks.
if the answer is in agreement with what our audience says.
And it is, again, big numbers. It's the big number. They're 25-54s. They're ratings likely, so they're more media attuned, and they're listening at work.
We know that landlines are eroding, and that, of course, assumes that you can even get people to pick up, which is why we lean into workplace calls, because we know that during business hours, the phones get answered and are not susceptible to the same kinds of state and local do not call lists. And when stations call with an offer of cash, we see response rates and receptivity climb as high as 60%.
All right, from the what and the where to the how, our group of likely ratings respondents, 2554, was asked to choose between text to win and call in to win contest. So which is true? And I have the feeling this group is going to nail it. Text 1 if you think more in our group preferred text to win over call in to win. Text 2 if you think more in our group preferred call in to win over text to win.
Well, there are certainly those who would say that it's call in to win, those who've watched a phone bank during a contest even these days. But this group is pretty solidly behind text to win, and that is the correct answer, but the plurality of 2554 ratings likelies actually prefer the name game, where they register online and then they listen for their name. I think to get call in to win to be the biggest answer, we'd have to go up 65 plus to find people who still want to do that.
So how'd you do? There were definitely a few answers that surprised us when we saw them. We know that to program successfully in 2019, we need to know not only how ratings respondents think and act, but also how to best reach them, a skill that NuVoodoo has been honing for the better part of a decade. And now it's your turn to test your ability to find a meter among the households in this neighborhood. To do that, I'm going to turn things over to Ken Scott from $1 Million Media to tell you more.
Thanks, guys. We're excited to be part of this session and to demonstrate our instant win game that we've built with NuVoodoo. Going to give you guys a chance to find meters and win money. You might be, more familiar with $1 Million Media on the big money insured promotions we do, like the dice rolls and crack the safes and birthday games. But today we're going to show you our instant win game. The way this is going to work, you can see on the screen there's a URL, mdmgames.com/NuVoodoo. You can either click on, you can type that into your browser to pull up the website, or you'd be able to, I believe, get the link on the last, on your text. It was probably text to you as a link as well, or it could be on the GoToWebinar control panel. So either way, we want you to pull up that URL, mdmgames.com/NuVoodoo. And when you do, type in your email address. We're going to give everybody a few seconds to pull that up. And once you type in your email address, we're going to reveal the keyword. And when we reveal the keyword, we're going to have you type in the keyword. It's not case sensitive. And then that will launch the game. There'll be 5 houses to select from. You have to try to pick the right house. And if you're going to try to see if the house you picked has any meters, each meter is worth $20. So I'm going to reveal the keyword at this point. The keyword is ratings, RATINGS, plural. So it's ratings. So when you're ready, type in ratings and play the instant win game.
Now, once you picked a house, if you manage to find a meter, we drink our own Kool-Aid here and want to celebrate our winners. So make sure you let us know that if you won, you can use the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. Let us know if you won, how many meters you found, and what station or market you're with so that we can give you a shout out. Again, mdmgames.com/NuVoodoo, keyword ratings.
And PJ, while we're waiting, maybe we could cross-promote the fact that we have a new study in the field and that we'll be announcing a new webinar for late July. And if you go to nuvoodoo.com/webinars in the next week or two, we'll start enrolling people to see our brand new study to set up the fall book.
And again, if you won, you can use the question section on your GoToWebinar control panel. Just give us an idea that you won, how many meters that you found, and what station or market that you are with. Should have a couple winners, hopefully, here in a second. Hey, first one came in. Let's see. Oh, that is not what I wanted. Let me see if I can, there we go. Jake Sweezy, sorry if I butcher your last name, at Cumulus Des Moines found 1 meter. Congratulations on picking up $20.
Woohoo!
Let's see if we've got somebody else. Oh, here we go. Bob Newman. Let's see. Where's Bob? I lost my cursor. There we go. Bob Newman picked up 5 meters, so that's $20 a meter. So he snagged $100. He is in Savannah. Congratulations. Now, if only it were that easy to find meters in your daily radio life. It can get a little easier with NuVoodoo's help, if you'll excuse the final shameless plug of the day. Congrats to both of our winners. If you'd like to revisit anything on today's webinar, a recording of it will show up in your email in the next 24 hours and made available on nuvoodoo.com/webinars. As Mike mentioned, look for ratings prospect study number 14, which is in the field now, to start providing insight and data by the middle of next month. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I hope everybody has a fantastic week.